Right. Welcome today to the fabulous Renee Dickson, whom I met via a Global Woman Amsterdam networking event. Now, Renee is a mindset coach and a RTT practitioner, so more on that in a minute. Now, the topic for today and the name of her business is Make Your Mind Your Best Friend. And I, for one, I'm always surprised at how good we, in particular women, seem to be at doing exactly the opposite. So I am very much looking forward to this. But before we get into the heart of the matter, Renee, can I ask you to introduce yourself a little bit in your own words, maybe where you're from, where you live, and, why you are doing this? Why is this topic so important to you?
Mhm, mhm. So I'm Renee and I live in Amsterdam and I've been doing this for quite a while now. And I think making your mind your best friend is so absolutely vital because our mind is with us 100% of the time.
Mm.
And what most people forget, it listens all the time.
Yeah.
So when we have negative self-talk, and I think we can all get Olympic medals, especially as women, for putting ourselves down, our
Yes.
mind listens and it will make that a reality. It's
Yes.
very important that we learn how to make our mind our best friend.
I
And that is
can't
really
wait.
so close to my heart that we
Right.
learn to
So, well,
do
then
that.
tell us a little bit about your background. I mean, first of all, you don't sound very
Yeah.
Dutch to me.
No, I'm not. I'm actually from Germany.
You're
I
actually
also grew up,
German.
yeah, I'm German, but I grew up in the UK, so
I was going to
got like
say, because
this
you sound so UK to me.
this
Right.
total mix at the moment. So yeah, and I moved to the Netherlands about 5 years ago, and I'm also in a corporate job, which is absolutely fantastic in IT. And on the side, I am actually really busy with helping people to make their minds their best friend.
Right. So, okay. So now we have the setting. So you're British German living in Amsterdam. You have a corporate job in IT, but
Yes,
you have discovered this importance about the mindset. And you're on a mission, right? You're on a mission
I am.
to help people. And I love the
Mhm,
name of your company. Make
mhm.
it your mind your best friend.
Yeah.
Right. So thanks for that. So let's get into the topic
Mhm,
itself. So
mhm.
as you said, women are usually quite Olympian at
We are.
not doing that. Any
Mhm.
ideas onto why we actually do that to ourselves?
I think it's also part of our upbringing. Men are usually told that they have to be fierce and they have to be strong and they have to be confident. And that gets fostered when they are children already. But
Right.
for women, it's usually like be quiet and be a
Mm.
people pleaser. And especially when we're told that when we are children, because it all starts when we are children. That's actually the key, because when we are children, we are so connected to our subconscious mind, and we do whatever we like. Little babies don't think about whether
Yes.
they
Yeah.
they just go for all the attention they can get. They're confident. They will start screaming when they want to. When little babies ask, "Mommy, mommy, look at me, look at me." It's the same for girls as for boys, but
Right.
very often women get shut up more or girls get shut up more than men. And sadly, the importance we attach to events like that, for example, when we were shut up as children, is, oh, that means I must not be good enough. It must not be
Yeah.
taught what we say. And sadly, we wire that into our subconscious mind. If we hear it often enough, it becomes a belief. Because a belief
Right.
is nothing but a thought that we think over and over again. And that comes from what we hear or experience over and over again. So then we take that into our adult lives, and it sort of like runs through our lives like a fissure, and it's very, very difficult to break that. But there
Quite
are
scary
ways to.
when you think about, for us who are mothers, who have our own children. I mean, would you
Mhm,
say that it has changed?
mhm.
The children, we're talking, this is a 50 plus audience, okay? So we were
Yeah.
brought up in the days where, yes,
Mhm,
mostly little girls were
mhm.
quiet and didn't
Oh,
make much
absolutely.
noise. And, it was perfectly
Mhm,
acceptable for a boy, to be kicking stuff around and having
mhm,
tantrums, but girls
mhm,
were not allowed to do that.
mhm.
Now, would you say that that has changed? Do we educate our girls and boys more the same now?
Mhm. I think it has changed to a certain degree because I meet a lot of really young women, which was very interesting to me, and it's very, very close to my heart. Like I was at a fair this past weekend, and I had a lot of younger women that were like in their 20s. I asked them how old they were, and they were already very busy with, mindset and meditation and all that. And that was so nice to hear because
Right.
my generation, to be
Yeah.
honest, I didn't have a clue.
We
I
didn't,
think
but
I
we didn't even
probably
talk about things like
no,
that. I
no,
mean, we
no, no,
didn't
no.
really, yeah.
Exactly. Yeah, I probably started thinking about that for the first time like 3 or 4 years ago.
I think you're not the only one. I think there's a whole generation of us who became very much aware of that and how we feed
Mhm,
our mind. Right, Renee, you're a mindset coach,
mhm,
right? And you're talking about making your mind your best friend. So maybe let's start with defining what is a mindset.
mhm. Yeah, a mindset is really, I like to say it that way. The mindset is really how we talk to ourselves, how we dialogue with our minds. And that is super important because most people are not even aware that they're dialoguing with their
Yeah,
minds all the
yeah,
time.
yeah,
They think, yeah, okay, my mind is there and it's there for the logic and the willpower and to make decisions. But what we forget very often is that's only 5 to 10%. That's the conscious mind that we operate on most of
right,
the time in our daily lives. But what really drives us, because we're holistic beings, what really drives us is the subconscious mind, and that makes up 90 to 95% of who
right.
we are, because what we find there, it's our confidence, our self-trust, all our emotions, no matter whether they're positive or negative, all our emotions, and even the body, any physical experiences we have. The subconscious mind is basically the gateway to all of that, even to our spirituality. And most of
Right.
the time, we're unaware of it because it's subconscious.
So it's like running programs that make us do whatever we
Mm,
do almost
mm,
automatically, but without us even being aware of that. So
yeah, yeah.
so how can one change that then?
Yeah, that's a very interesting because most people think it must be super, super, super complicated, but it isn't. Because I love also that you use the word program because it's a little bit like, okay, so we get this program when we are children and we get programmed as children. And very often we get programmed with negative stuff like we are not good enough, we're not pretty enough, we're not clever enough. And that's the program we're running on
Right.
all the time. So you think, oh, but I can't change that. That happened in my past, and I can't change the past. But you can change your present.
Right.
You can interrupt it because your mind can be upgraded. And actually, neuroscience have proved that. We
Yeah.
have this concept of neuroplasticity, which has
Right.
shown us that the brain or our mind is actually capable of rewiring itself and
Right.
building new neural pathways with new experiences and with new things that we learn. And that opens up a door of
Yeah.
possibilities.
And they have proven it, haven't they? Where they have like these
They
tests
do.
where it lights up,
Yeah.
etc. So,
Yeah.
but I mean, to get this straight, we can't change what happened to us, right? I mean, that's in the past, it's done,
Mhm.
but we can change what it means to us, right? What we make it
Exactly.
mean,
Yeah.
right?
We can change the meaning that we attach to it.
Yeah, and what we
Yeah.
then believe about ourselves.
Mhm.
Maybe
Exactly.
once we did something wrong and we
Yeah.
burnt our fingers, and then we think,
Yeah.
oh gosh, I mustn't
Mhm.
try that
Mhm.
again. But
Yeah,
no, we have actually learned how to not, not how to not burn our fingers, and now we can do it again. And we're talking to a
exactly.
50+ audience, so it's
Mhm,
time for us to well, first of all, I suppose examine what's going on in the subconscious before we can
mhm,
change anything. I mean, if we're not aware of the programs that we're
mhm,
running, then
mhm,
you can do as many affirmations as you want. It's not going to change anything, is it?
mm. Yeah, and it's actually very interesting that you mentioned affirmations. Affirmations are good. They're certainly powerful. But if we do not understand how our subconscious mind operates, and
Yeah.
it operates by certain governing principles, so it has, I like to call it the rules of the mind. There are certain rules by which it
Okay.
operates. And if we know them, then we can really easily change.
And they're the same for
And
everyone, these rules.
yeah, those rules are the same.
Okay.
It's the same way our mind operates, and there are different ways of expressing it, but Tony Robbins expresses it differently from neuroscience, and then there are other people who express them differently. But they are always the same, how our mind operates.
So what sort of thing are we talking about then? What sort of
Yeah,
rules?
yeah. For example, one of the main rules of the mind is the mind does exactly what it thinks you want it to do.
Right.
Sounds complicated, but it isn't. So first of all, it listens to you all the time. And whatever you tell it, it will believe and it will think, oh, what you're telling me is something that you want me to make a reality. So I give an
Right.
example. Let me give an example. So, for example, if you are someone who has to give an important talk, you have to go out there and you have to give a presentation, and it's a stage, and you know there are going to be 20,000 people looking at you. And you're standing there and your hands get sweaty. Oh my God. And you're starting to get a bit this feeling, you know, that you get about, oh my God, I'm going to have diarrhea or something like that. So if your mind is wired into believing, oh my God, this is really bad, this is going to kill me, guess what? Your mind is going to take that as face value.
Right.
It's going to go, oh, wait a minute. If that's going to kill you, I don't want to send you out there because I'm listening to you all the time. I'm your subconscious mind. I'm there to keep you
Right.
safe and to make everything you tell me a reality. So if you're telling me this is going to kill you, I don't want to kill you because my job is to make
Keep
you
you
safe.
alive.
So I'm going to give
Yeah.
you, so I'm going to give you that diarrhea right now. So you can't go
Right.
out there.
So it's like a self-fulfilling prophecy, right?
It is, but
You're almost
it's
making
yeah,
it happen.
yeah, and because you know what we believe in and what we think of and what we tell ourselves, we get more of. You know, what we focus
Yeah.
on, we get more of.
Yeah, that's right.
So if we say going out there is going to kill us, then that's how we're going to feel.
Okay, so that's a very important rule then, is
Yeah,
but then we've got to be aware of what we're even saying to ourselves. I mean,
yeah,
most people, do you think people are aware? How can you become aware actually of what you're saying to yourself or what you're telling your mind?
yeah. This is something you can actually really learn. It's not rocket science. We always think it's so complicated. Our mind, it takes us ages and ages and ages to understand our mind. But no, once we become aware of it, we can actually catch ourselves. It's a matter of practice, which
Right,
bring us to one of the other rules of the minds a little bit later on, which is the mind learns by repetition.
right,
So if we can really catch ourselves and we can actually practice, we can practice changing the meaning we put on what is happening to us. And that brings me back to the rule of the mind that we've talked about just now. The mind does exactly what it thinks you want it to do. So instead of saying to yourself, oh, this is going to kill me, when you feel the sweat and your heart start
panic,
racing and
yeah,
feel the adrenaline pumping, that's exactly the same thing that happens when you're excited to go out there and do something fun.
right,
It's exactly the same reaction.
yeah,
Only the meaning you attach to it is a different one. So when you can actually realize that, oh my God, I'm getting the sweaty hands and my heart's starting pumping, if you start attaching a different meaning to it, like, oh, I'm so excited, I'm
yeah,
exhilarated, I can't wait to get out there. Guess what? Your mind is going to go sharp. It's going to
right,
be like Google. You're going to be able to remember everything when you go out there, and you're going to be just fabulous on stage because you have just told your mind, wow, I understand the signs, the sweating and the adrenaline pumping. That means I'm ready for it. That
right.
means I'm exhilarated to go out there.
So, but I
And
mean, so you say this is, even if we're talking about 50 odd years of programming, you're saying that we
yeah,
can change that quite fast
okay.
because, I mean, to come back to in the introduction, I said that you practice RTT. Now,
Mhm.
maybe now's the time to explain what RTT is.
Yeah, that's actually a rapid transformational therapy.
Okay, so
And
rapid, right?
yeah,
So,
it's rapid. It's rapid. So what it does is this is really for people who get stuck in life or who are recovering from burnout, or also for people who have trauma, depression, or anxiety. It's very important to find out where does that come from, because remember I said we get wired in our past. But most of the time, we don't have access to it because we're operating on that 5
yeah.
to 10% of the conscious mind. So, what RTT does is it's a combination of hypnotherapy,
Oh,
psychotherapy, NLP, and cognitive behavioral therapy. And it uses the most effective elements of all of these to get
Oh,
to the root cause of an issue
so it's
much
a real
faster.
discipline in itself, which is taught and accredited or whatever as a
It is.
specific discipline.
Yes.
Okay.
It was actually found out by Marissa Peer, who's a very famous therapist, and her background thought was really like, I can't believe people have to go to therapy for 10 or more years
Yeah.
to find
Yeah.
out what's ailing them.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
in traditional therapy, we're operating on the 5 to 10%. So with RTT in the hypnotherapy, we actually go back to the root cause of the event that is causing a person harm or is painful for them. And then once we found out what it is, we have a look at what meaning does that have and what influence does that have on their life right now? And how can they let it go? And then we
Okay.
work through, we have certain tools where we can actually guide the person to actually let go of whatever programmed them incorrectly. So to let go of that, so we can create space now for better suggestions, because you have to have space for that as
Of
well.
course.
If
Yeah.
you're on this, because you can imagine the old program is running, if you put the
Yeah.
new program on top of
Yeah.
it, also when
Yeah.
you install a new program, it usually says overwrite the other one or
Mhm.
delete the
Mhm.
other one first. And we have to overwrite the old program. And that's what RTT does. It overwrites the old program and it gives you better suggestions for your life that will actually take away whatever it is, the anxiety, and instead install the life that you really, really want.
And it still comes from the person itself, right? Because of course, I think for
Yes.
lots of us still, when you say hypnotherapy and you think hypnosis and you talk about, I remember even at
Yeah.
the beginning of NLP, people were saying, oh, but it's like brainwashing
No, I
and,
know.
all of these
Yeah.
scary things where you don't want to let your
Yeah.
mind be
Yeah.
directed by somebody else who's going
I
to go
know.
in there.
Yeah.
But so it's not like that, right?
No, actually, what you're doing is you're reconnecting back to your subconscious
To your
mind.
real
Because
self, right?
remember,
Yeah, yeah,
remember what I said at the beginning, as children, we are connected.
right,
And then at some point that gets broken. So basically
right.
all we're doing is we're giving the control back. You get more
Yes.
control and
So
not
you're not
less.
being fed anything. You're just
Absolutely
like
not.
removing away all the
Yeah.
damage that's been put on top of it, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
We're
Yeah.
removing the damage and then we're getting you back on track with what you really, really, really want.
Oh gosh, it sounds
So
good.
that's what we're doing.
I
Yeah.
think I think it's a bit time for us to do all of that, right?
Yeah.
So that's
Yeah.
what you do with your clients. People come to you with
Mhm.
all sorts of issues,
Yeah.
and you sort of help them rewrite their program in a way which works better
Mhm.
for them, right? Something doesn't serve them
Absolutely.
anymore, right?
Yeah, let go of, and this process of letting go is the most important one, the
Yeah.
release, because let go are the most important words. We need to let go of that old programming. And it isn't
Yeah.
easy because, the mind likes what is familiar, which brings us to
Yes.
the second rule. The mind likes what is familiar because what is familiar keeps us safe.
Yes.
Because that comes from the old days, where anything unfamiliar could potentially get us killed.
Very true. So it's
When we
wired into
lived,
our DNA.
yeah,
Yeah. Yeah.
exactly. It's really, yeah, I like the way you're saying that. It is wired into our DNA because back then you couldn't just leave your village and go, oh, I'm going to have
Yeah.
a day
Yeah.
out there. You could be
Yeah.
whatever, killed, eaten, or whatever. So our mind really loves what is familiar. And most importantly, it cannot distinguish between whether what is familiar is good for us or bad for us.
Okay.
So again, if we were told when we were little, you're not good enough, you're not clever enough, you're not whatever, pretty enough, then that becomes our programming. That's what is familiar to us. And we
Yeah.
run with that
Yeah.
programming, we run with it. And even if we have the chance, I can give a good example. Even if we have the chance as an adult, let's say, so we've been told we're not clever enough, we're not good enough, we're never going to amount to anything. And then you're an adult and you have this chance to study hard and become this great marketing strategist or a fantastic doctor or a great pianist because that's what you want. Guess what? If you're still on the old program, you'll
You're going to
suddenly
sabotage
find,
yourself, right? Yeah.
exactly, you'll suddenly find yourself procrastinating,
Yeah.
self-sabotaging. Instead of studying, you'll find yourself Netflixing or
Yeah.
folding socks or whatever.
Yeah.
So, because your mind thinks, oh, no, let's stick with the safe stuff.
Yeah. Yeah.
Probably it's too risky to start studying. So we need to sabotage.
So
But
that's
when
when you
you
were talking about repetition then. So it's right, the more you repeat something, the more you hope
Mhm,
it then becomes
mhm,
familiar.
mhm. Yeah, because the tip that is attached to this one is make the unfamiliar familiar. So
Right.
you need to make praise familiar,
Yeah.
meaning tell yourself every single day how fabulous you are and
Right.
erase the old program. The old program was you are not enough and
Yeah.
you are not clever enough, and you just override it with I'm fabulous, I am great. And you can really use up to the minute words when you know where you're going. You can actually say, I am a fantastic pianist, or I'm the
Yeah.
greatest marketing strategist. I create the most fantastic marketing campaigns, and the outcome is absolutely fabulous. We're going to get hundreds
Yeah.
of clients. So now you're overriding, but you have to do it repeatedly,
Yeah.
because neuroscience also says it takes a minimum of 21 days for the mind to get used to something new. And I like to compare that actually to when you're driving a car. Because you know how sometimes you ride your car and you know the way, right? And the way is maybe dark and it's bumpy and it's not much fun, but it's the way you know. So you go it like every day, because you know it's going to take you home. And one day somebody tells you, but you know what? You don't have to go the bumpy road and the road in the dark. There's a scenic route that you can go. Oh, but it's unknown. I've never
Yeah.
ridden that
Yeah.
route.
Yeah.
So you go it once, but the first few times that you're going that route, you might not be even paying attention to the scenery, because you're
Yeah.
so focused on, oh, where do I
Here,
need
left,
to
here,
go?
right. Yeah.
Oh,
Yeah.
right here.
Yeah.
But after you've done it a few times, you will realize that that route becomes the familiar route. Oh, and it's so much nicer. Look at the wonderful scenery. No bumps on the
That's
road.
the good way
Nothing
to
is
put it.
dark. So
So
yeah,
you
you
have to go
gotta get
outside your
used to
comfort
it.
zone a little bit of the time and do something new. But then we all know by now at 50 plus that if we don't go outside our comfort zone and try anything new, we've all had to try something new in
Yep.
life, I mean,
Yeah.
we don't move
Yeah.
forward otherwise.
Yeah. Yeah. Life happens outside the comfort zone. We
Yeah,
definitely have to leave the
exactly.
comfort zone. So
Okay, so I mean, so you've already given us two fantastic tips. And so the third one?
the third one is also, again, linked to a rule of the mind, and that is also very important. The mind actually listens to the words you say and the images you create in your head. So very important to use very up to the minute words that create an image in the mind, because then it's much easier for the mind to work towards it. Give you an example again. Very often we use incredibly descriptive words when we're negative. This
Yeah.
workload is killing me.
Yeah.
I'm
Oh, yeah.
completely snowed under. And your mind
Yeah.
immediately has these images and says,
I'm
oh,
drowning and yeah,
I'm
yeah,
drowning. I can feel the snowball
yeah,
rolling
yeah.
over me. That's a very strong image.
We
So
do.
your mind
Yeah.
will do anything to take you away from that,
Yeah.
because it is wired to keep you safe, right?
Yeah.
So then, on the other hand, we're often incredibly vague when it comes to saying something positive. And that
Mm.
brings me to what you said with positive affirmations, because I've been listening to positive affirmations quite a bit. And I also realized that some of them are quite vague. So you can tell yourself every morning, I am successful, I am
Mm.
successful, I'm making a lot of money, but that's still very vague.
Yes.
Being successful, what does that mean for
And it
you?
means something different to all different people. It's not, yeah, it's very abstract, right?
What does that look like for you? So it's much better if you create your own affirmation and be really, really, really specific. Tell your mind specifically the image you want to create. So for example, instead of just saying, waking up in the morning going, I am successful, I'm feeling good, you could say something like, I wake up every morning refreshed, grateful, energized, confident. I am at ease in any situation.
Right.
Well, I am
Because you can
absolutely
relate to that, right?
fantastic.
You feel it. As you say,
Yes,
it's an image, but you feel it. Okay, I'm at ease. You know
you feel
how
it.
that feels, right? To be at
Yeah,
ease.
yeah. And now your mind understands. It
Yeah.
goes, oh, now I
Yeah.
understand what you mean by successful. You want to be
Right.
energized and confident, and you want to have high self-esteem. You want to trust yourself in any situation. And then you can actually put more things around you that are relevant to you and your specific situation.
Right.
I want to be the greatest mom to my children. I want my children to love me. I want my children to have a lot of friends. You can whatever takes your fancy, put that into your mind. Use these up to the minute words. So that is the third tip that I have, that
Right.
is really linked to the mind really listens to the words you say and the images you create by those words. And the better you are in creating the image, the better your mind understands.
That
And
makes
that,
sense, right?
yeah,
Because otherwise it just stays all very generic. We don't
yeah,
really feel it. If you don't
yeah.
feel it, you're not going to believe it. So, it's just empty.
Mhm.
Renee, thank you so much for this, because I thought it was very
Okay.
clever the way you attached these rules of the mind with these 3 tips. So explain to me how you work, for those who want to
Mhm,
go beyond these 3 tips,
mhm.
which we'll repeat in a minute.
Yeah.
You coach people?
Mhm. Yeah, basically, I have decided for myself that I want to do a combination of RTT and mindset coaching because, like I said, in the RTT session, we look at the presenting problem. So there's a presenting problem, like somebody, for example, feels stuck in life. That can be really painful.
Yeah.
I'm hearing this so often from people. They feel so stuck, and it's really stopping them from doing anything. They're self-sabotaging on a
Yeah.
really horrible level, and they're procrastinating. So basically, with this presenting problem, we will do the RTT session. But before we do that, I want my clients to understand the rules of the mind. I
Yeah.
want them to understand the science behind it so that before they even do this transformational session, they know how it works and why
Yeah.
it works.
And they
'Cause then
believe it then, right? Because otherwise
they believe it
yeah.
because it's so much more powerful. And also after the RTT session, I like to do another mindset session in which we actually look at what's the blueprint now for your everyday life? How can you now implement it all in your everyday life with daily,
It's
daily
practical as
the
well, right? It's
practical
not
stuff.
just
We'll
yeah,
look at the
yeah, yeah.
practical stuff. So I like to
Sounds
combine the two.
amazing.
So that's how I work.
Fantastic. And so you do this online or you do this in Amsterdam? How do people
Yeah.
approach you?
I do it online worldwide, but I also like to do it in Amsterdam in person. So I have a few in-person clients that I do this with, and probably I will be doing it with some groups in the future. So yeah, I'm actually doing it online, but also in person.
Fantastic. Well, thank goodness for you, because I mean, this is, 50 plus. I think it's time that we clean out our cupboards and check how we're leading our lives, because we have plenty more years ahead to really
We
blossom,
do.
right? To
Yeah.
really get rid of that, go back to our blueprint, as you say, go back to the
Mhm.
true us and embrace that can do, curiosity, fun aspect
Mhm.
that we had as children before we took in all of this, programming and bad experiences and what we made it mean. So this sounds absolutely fantastic. And we will have you back as well to go more in detail into what RTT is, because I find it quite fascinating. I didn't
Love
actually
to.
know much about RTT. So Renee, do you want to maybe repeat rapidly just the 3 tips before we say goodbye to
Right.
everyone? So here we are for those who obviously I recommend that people see Renee if you want to take this to a different level, or work on any specific thing. But for the rest who are just listening, and as I say every time, 30 minutes, we learn something new. What 3 tips do you have for us, Renee, to make our mind our best friend?
Yeah. So the first tip is, remember, whenever you feel this sweaty hands or whatever coming up, attach a different meaning to it. So
Right,
basically, instead of saying, I'm scared, I don't want to go out there, it's killing me, say to yourself, I'm excited, I'm exhilarated. So basically, just flip
right.
it and give it a different meaning. So that's the first step. The second tip is make the unfamiliar familiar. If praise is not familiar to you, make praise familiar. And that is actually, for me, that's actually the biggest one, because we hardly anyone does that. So
Yeah.
thank yourself every single day for getting up.
Yeah.
That's
Pat
how
on the
you can start.
shoulder. Yeah.
Pat
Yeah.
on the shoulder. I'm getting up, energized. I'm going to make my coffee. I'm going to go to work. I'm going to have a great day. So make the
Yeah.
unfamiliar familiar. And then lastly, use really descriptive words that create an image in your head if you want something. So when you have a goal, make sure you use very, very specific, very descriptive words that can actually really create an image in your mind.
Fantastic. Fantastic. We will have all your details in the show notes. Just maybe for those who are listening to the podcast version of this, your maybe email address or website, how do people find you? It's
Oh,
Renee
yeah.
double E, right?
Yeah, it's reneedickson.com, Renee with a double E, reneedickson.com. And then I also have two Facebook pages, but I think you'll put the link
I'll
in the
put everything in the show notes.
probably.
It's
Yeah,
just for those who do. I know that some people do listen to the podcast version and they're,
yeah,
charging around doing their jogging or whatever it is that they're doing. So like
yeah,
that, they can at least remember Renee Dickson,
absolutely.
double E
Yeah.
and CK for Dickson.
Mhm.
Renee, thank you very, very much. Looking forward to having you back, and good luck with Make Your Mind Your Best Friend, because I think that's exactly what we all need to be doing. So, and easy to find you this way as well.
Yeah,
Thank you to the
wonderful.
rest of you out there. Time to take action. Let's work on those 3 tips to start with, and also become aware of our mind. It's
Yeah,
just become aware of what we're saying to ourselves, to what we're doing, and make sure that is what we actually want.
yeah.
All the best to you all. Speak to you again, this time again next week.